Here, if everything goes according to whatever is written in the Constitution, then it's a sense of perfect polity. But everything will not go according to what is written, because human aspect is involved. Whenever human aspect is involved, there is element of discretion, there is element of diversion and deviation from the original writings in the Constitution. So keeping that divergence and those deviations in mind, and form the state policies and govern better. लेकिन वो एंटिसिपेट करना है पहले ही that humans are involved. जो गवर्न कर रहे हैं वो भी है humans, जिनको कर रहे हैं that are also humans. Keeping that human factor in mind, and you then form the state policies, and you then form something in order to benefit the masses. That is the concept of governance. Governance is nothing but keeping in mind the human aspect of the population. That whatever is written will not be implemented in letter and spirit. There will be divergence and deviations. Keeping that in mind is the governance. Those who govern, how they govern, a contract between the people and the state. Okay? But there are also people involved जो govern करेंगे और जिनको करेंगे. Keeping that anticipation in mind, that there can be divergence and deviations. If you keep that thing in mind and exercise your authority, that there are humans involved, that exercise of authority is governance. And we right now need this exercise of authority to be good. Hence the concept of good governance. The good governance is nothing but the exercise of authority by the legitimate entity, keeping in mind the aspirations or the deviations or the divergence caused by human factor, while implementing the tenets of the contract. Keeping in mind the deviations, the divergence. Okay? So that part of exercise of authority is nothing but governance. And we need this governance to be good. Hence World Bank came up with the word good governance. Word good governance World Bank se aaya hai. Halaki in practice good governance was there from ancient times. We can see the elements of good governance in Arthashastra. Okay? We can see the elements of good governance in Amukta Malyada by Krishna Deva Raya. Okay? We can see these elements of good governance in Futuhai Jahandari. We can see the elements of good governance in our constitution, modern constitution, in other statutory laws as well. तो ये सारी चीजें चल ही आ रही है in one form or the other, but concretization इसका हुआ by World Bank when they came up with the nomenclature of good governance, because they provided relief and other developmental assistance to sub-Saharan countries in Africa. So whatever plan they made was accurate, whatever funding was given was accurate, but the results were not on the ground. So they anticipated this कि हाँ यहाँ पे गवर्नेंस का लैक है. हमने ह्यूमन फैक्टर को दिमाग में नहीं रखा. कागजी कार्रवाई के ये रहा प्लान, ये रहे पैसे, ये लो करो. करप्शन किसी ने दिमाग में ही नहीं रखा, ह्यूमन फैक्टर किसी ने दिमाग में ही नहीं रखा. Then they came with the concept of there should be authority keeping in mind the human factor, and that should be governance. And we should make this governance good. ठीक है. However, before making this governance good, you should focus on one thing, that whenever the contract is being made between the state and its subjects, the contract should be such, when the contract is implemented, it should not cause harm to these subjects. It should respect their dignity and their rights. So in this contract itself, we put precautionary measures, we put restrictions in this contract itself, so that the authority which is governing shall not go outside the bounds of this contract. समझ आ रही बात? In this contract only we put precautionary measures. We are having restrictions so that the authority should not misuse its power, should not have should not exercise extra power beyond which they are sanctioned. Okay? So this limitation, this restriction, and this preventive measure, which is itself put in the contract, which is known as constitution, is nothing but constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is nothing but a funda, but a concept where you limit the exercise of the powers of that authority which is governed, so that the government shall not go arbitrary in the exercise of its authority and power. So it's very important to write these things down within the contract itself, because if you have a written constitution, which we will discuss, written constitution, it's very rigid, it's not flexible. Once something you have written down or something you have missed, it's very difficult to include or erase. Okay? So you have to pen down these things while drafting this political social contract between the state and the citizens, and that contract is also known as constitution. In this constitution you should have these things where precautionary measures, restrictions and limitations on the powers of the authority must be written, so that arbitrariness is removed. And that is nothing but the concept of constitutionalism. However, constitutionalism can never be achieved in real sense if there is not an independent authority to see whether these limitations are held by the government or not. अगर हमने सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर का कंसेप्ट नहीं रखा, आप कितनी भी लिमिटेशंस डाल दो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म आपको दिखेगा नहीं. देयर इज इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ ए डिफरेंट कंसेप्ट नोन एज सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स, गिवन बाय who gave this? Montesquieu. Separation of powers. So what will happen if you want to achieve the true essence of constitutionalism? You have to keep a check on the government, so that government is not misusing its authority, or government is working as per the tenets written in the constitution or that political social contract. For that, separation of powers is required, and one of the elements is judiciary. Independent, which is not the part of government, independent and strong judiciary is a prerequisite for having constitutionalism. Because इसको बोलोगे आपको आर्बिट्री नहीं करना, लेकिन अगर ये करेगा भी और ये खुद को खुद से ही जज कर रहा है, तो there is no concept of any fairness or justice in the constitution. लेकिन we have kept a separate entity for that. We have kept a separate entity like legislature. हालांकि in the parliamentary form of government they coincide. More role is played by the judicial organ of the state in the parliamentary form of government to ensure constitutionalism. Am I clear? Furthermore, there should be a written constitution. If written constitution is not there, the separation of powers कि judiciary ये कर सकती है, government ये कर सकता है, legislature ये कर सकता है, अगर ये clearly demarcated नहीं है in a written constitution, which is rigid, which is very difficult to amend, then what will the state do? What will this government do? They will just amend the constitution and judiciary को बोलेंगे आपके पास ये power अब नहीं है. In short, they will try to usurp the power of judicial review from the judiciary. तो इस चीज को बचाने के लिए written constitution is mandatory. You can have unwritten constitution also, but that is flexible. Unwritten does not mean it's not written. Unwritten is also written, but it is not codified into a single legal document. Okay. That's a different story altogether. So we have seen what some entity is exercising authority through a particular mode, be it parliament, democracy or monarchy or whatever, and then they have a contract between the state and its subjects. The contract should be based on fairness. The contract should be based on limiting the exercise of what powers of the state and ensure justice, ensure rights of the individuals. For that, restrictions, limitations and everything is put in the contract itself, and that is known as constitutionalism. However, constitutionalism can be better enforced only if there is an independent body overseeing it. For that, an independent and a strong judiciary is a prerequisite thing. And for judiciary being independent and strong, there must be a written constitution. For example, for federalism to happen, if you have a federal state like India, हालांकि it's unitary bias, that's a different thing. India is a federal state. If you want to have a federal state like India, you need to have a written constitution. In unwritten constitution, federal setup is not possible. Because in unwritten constitution, whatever parliament of that country decides becomes the constitution. And they will decide कि आज जम्मू कश्मीर के साथ ऐसा होगा, आज तेलंगाना के साथ ऐसा होगा, वैसा होगा, तो ऐसा हम करने नहीं देंगे. Then it will be a unitary setup, not federal. If to protect federation, you must require a written constitution. And also to protect the essence of constitutionalism, you have to provide an independent and strong judiciary. That will come from a written constitution. So the essence of constitutionalism is weak in country like England, UK, where judiciary is weak, where legislature is powerful. Whatever they say, that becomes constitution because they have unwritten constitution there. And the example of one of the strongest judiciary is United States of America, where watertight compartment separation is between the organs of the state, and judiciary is very strong. India is also example of what? A strong and independent judiciary. It owes its origin from Keshwananda Bharati case, 1973, from the principle or the doctrine of basic structure. So what we are going to study in this chapter is the philosophical and constitutional framework of government. Why the government was necessary? Government was necessary because there was chaos. Hobbes, Rousseau, Locke, they have given different things why government has been necessary. The government का philosophical basis ये है, in order to fulfill the public interest, government collectively कुछ लोगों की legitimately लोगों की needs को fulfill करे. Now it has become the symbol of power and authority and luxury. In essence, government को ऐसा देखा नहीं गया था. They were just public servants. तो type of political system क्या फॉलो करते हैं? डेमोक्रेसी फॉलो करते हैं, रूल बाय पीपल, और द मोनार्की, थियोक्रेसी, ठीक है. एंड व्हाट टाइप ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दे हैव, व्हाट टाइप ऑफ पॉलिटिकल सोशल एग्रीमेंट दे हैव बिटवीन द स्टेट एंड, ठीक है. ये सारा फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट विल बी स्टडीड इन दिस क्लास एंड फोकस विल बी ऑन व्हाट? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म. हाउ टू प्रिवेंट द स्टेट फ्रॉम बिकमिंग आर्बिट्ररी, how to respect the dignity, rights, liberties and freedom of the people. However, when you are coming together in order to form a state, in order to write a political social contract, you have to give up certain portion of your rights for the collective interest of the society. That is the basic political theory. You cannot enjoy absolute liberty where you have constitution. Absolute liberty नहीं होगी. न एब्सोल्यूट लिबर्टी इंडिविजुअल्स की है, न सरकार की है. सरकार की एब्सोल्यूट लिबर्टी पे हमने रेस्ट्रिक्शन लगाई है इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बाय मल्टीपल प्रोविजंस. वन ऑफ द मेन प्रोविजन व्हिच एंश्योर्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म इन इंडिया इज फंडामेंटल राइट्स. पार्ट 3 of the Constitution of India, which deals with the fundamental rights, ठीक है, आर्टिकल 12 to 35. ये सारे आपको वो आर्टिकल्स हैं that restricts or bounds the hands of the government. Other articles are as well there, but main is fundamental rights. So you have to, these fundamental rights, एक एक करके ये सब कुछ पॉलिटी का पार्ट है. यहाँ पे एक larger essence देखा जाता है, not minute details. Minute details are in polity and constitution. ठीक है, you write few lines.